And the past few days, in the wake of the killing of the Iranian General Soleimani, I think Donald Trump has proven beyond that comment beyond dispute. The haphazard decision-making process that led up to it, the failure to consult with our allies or Congress, and the reckless disregard for the consequences that would surely follow was, in my view, dangerously incompetent.
Bombing the Houthis if the attacks don't stop. Will you continue with the strikes, sir?
We will make sure that we respond to the Houthis as they continue this outrageous behavior, along with our allies.
Do you de facto proxy war?
No. Iran does not want a war with us.
Okay, so over the last several weeks, Joe Biden has been striking Yemen, the nation of Yemen. He's issued over half a dozen airstrikes and naval strikes inside of a sovereign country. Biden says he's doing this in order to stop the Houthis, who effectively run and are the government of Yemen. He's doing this to stop them from seizing ships, cargo ships, civilian ships, transporting oil, transporting items that are being shipped to and from Asia and Europe through the Suez Canal. So when they go through the Suez Canal, they have to go right by Yemen through the Gulf of Aden and the Red Sea. Then I get to the Suez Canal. So the Houthis, they've conducted acts of piracy. They seized some of these cargo ships and they've launched drones and missile strikes at some of these ships. So Biden has said that he's going to protect these ships, these regular cargo ships. He's going to strike a sovereign nation in order to protect these cargo ships, in order to protect world trade. So the reason why the Houthis are attacking is because Israel is destroying, carpet bombing, committing all types of vile acts inside of Gaza. And the Houthis, they stand in solidarity with Gaza, and they are not just standing in solidarity by words alone. They're taking hard action. They were striking, I think they still are. They were actually trying to strike Israel, shooting missiles at Israel, and the U.S. Navy was doing its best to block those missiles. And they said, you know what? How about if the U.S. want to get involved? How about this? How about we seize and disrupt all this trade that Israel has been benefiting from, that the Europeans who ally with the U.S., they're benefiting from, and also the U.S. itself. So if we can cause havoc in world trade, because the Suez Canal is one of the most important trade routes in the world, if we can cause havoc with that, it's going to cause great financial harm to our enemies. And like I said, the U.S. is costing them money. They have some ships there. They're partnering with a lot of people in Europe. They do trade with people in Europe who receive ships through the Suez Canal, and also Israel, the U.S.'s pet project, Israel. The United States wants to protect their economy, even though it's destroyed right now because they called over 300,000 men from work, the reservists, but that's a different story. So the U.S. wants to protect interests in the Suez Canal with the trade going to Israel, with trade going to Europe. They're willing to send enormous naval assets over there. They have multiple aircraft carriers. They got destroyers over there. They have Marines. They have, obviously, we saw what happened to the Navy SEALs. We got all these guys over there. So the U.S. is very interested in protecting the money that's going through, because these big oil companies, all these other companies that are doing trade, they spend a whole lot of money on lobbying up there in Washington, D.C., buying and selling politicians. So, of course, people like Biden, hit the commies that's around Biden, of course, they're going to be willing to spend a vast amount in order to protect all that money going through. So, what are the results of all of these strikes? Biden has launched over a dozen strikes. We're talking about dozens of targets hit by cruise missiles, by Tomahawk missiles inside of Yemen, and the Houthis said, we don't care. We're going to keep striking. So what was the result of that? Let's see what Biden had to say.
Are the airstrikes in Yemen working?
Well, when you say working, are they stopping the Houthis? No. Are they going to continue? Yes.
So the strikes are ineffective, but plenty of money for defense contractors, because we're talking about missiles that cost hundreds of thousands of dollars. Some of these missiles cost millions of dollars. They sent up a $5,000 drone. The Houthi sent up a $5,000 drone, and the Navy says, okay, we're going to spend $2 million to stop this cheap drone that you just shot. Oh, you sent another one? Let's spend another $2 million to stop that one. So The result of it is ineffective, except the defense contractors are making a whole lot of money because taxpayers' money is being spent on Lockheed Martin, on Boeing, on Raytheon, all of these companies that make all of these weapons. So Biden said, look, it's not working, but we're going to keep doing it because we're going to keep getting paid off of it. And this sums up the last several decades of U.S. foreign policy. Just throw money at it. Even if something's not working, keep doing the same thing. Isn't there a word for somebody who keeps doing the same thing, hoping for different results, but nothing's changing? Isn't there a word for people like that? So they're saying we're the U.S., we're better than everybody, so whatever we think will work should work. So we're going to throw money at it, and we're going to say, hey, we're the USA. And it's a dumb idea. It's not working at all, but Biden is over there bombing people, causing death among civilian population, sanctioning countries, harming the civilians over there who are just trying to live their life, and also trash talking Iran because they keep saying, oh, the Iranian back Houthi, the Iranian back Houthi, Iran is behind this, Iran is behind this. If we're going to say the Iranian backed Yemeni, I guess we got to say the US backed Israeli. But I guess you can't say that because it doesn't work the other way around. But they talk all this trash about Trump starting World War III. Oh, Trump, he's a moron. He's a warmonger. He's over here trash talking Kim Jong-un. He called him fat. He's over here killing people like Soleimani, the general in Iran. He's going to cause World War III. Trump's a warmonger. So we have this Iranian alliance that's built up against the U.S. We got militias in Iraq. We have militias over there in Syria. And we just saw what happened to these 3 service members that were killed by a drone and a couple of dozen more injured, allegedly in Jordan. But the news outlets in Jordan are saying it wasn't in Jordan, it was in Syria. But they're arguing about that. We got the Houthis down there in Yemen, and we have more growing alliances. Of course, Hezbollah, probably the most powerful militia outside of the Iranian army themselves, got Hezbollah up there in Lebanon. So all of these people are building up and just itching for war against the United States. And Joe Biden and his handlers, those cummies that surround him, they're escalating things by serving as accomplices for Israel's horrific actions. Now, when I say Israel's horrific actions, this isn't my opinion. This isn't coming from me. The UN court, the World Court, just ruled against Israel. The court said Israel needs to cease on bombing civilian populations, killing thousands of civilians. Most nations in the world are against what Israel is doing and saying it's a horrific thing. So, U.S., Joe Biden and his commies are serving as accomplices to Israel doing this, riling up all types of vitriol, stirring up more conflict in the Middle East. And now service members, U.S. service members are dead. Biden and his handlers, they're escalating things in Ukraine and Eastern Europe, even though Ukraine should have surrendered and saved hundreds of thousands of lives back in 2022. Biden them keep trying to pump more and more money into it because they're getting paid off of it. But it's also causing escalation of this war. And of course, they're constantly threatening China and building up more and more U.S. forces around China while trying to call China the aggressor. And hell, he might even start a civil war too. Look at what's going on down there in Texas. But the left said Trump was the loose cannon warmonger. But anyways, let's go to this article over here. We're going to look at these congressmen who are not so happy with what they're seeing with Biden just unilaterally starting wars with countries, just sending the Navy over there to bomb whoever the hell he feels like bombing. Well, not Biden himself, but the commies around Biden. I have to keep emphasizing that because the president isn't running the presidential office. The president is a senile old man who likely has dementia or some type of Alzheimer's going on, but he's surrounded by a bunch of hardline left-wing commies who are making horrific decisions because they don't know what the hell they're doing. As tensions in the Middle East escalate, some lawmakers are questioning whether the Biden administration can authorize attacks against the Houthi militants in Yemen without the express consent of Congress. So this has been a debate going on for decades because the last time the U.S. actually declared war was World War II. And how many wars have the U.S. engaged in? Dozens since World War II. And this is yet another one. And Biden is trying to use that authorization for Afghanistan and Iraq over 20 years ago. He's trying to say, well, I got that. I can use those pretexts, those authorizations to use military force. I can use those from over 20 years ago to bomb Yemen, right? We need to get clarity about their perception about their legal authorities and the implications of those understanding moving forward. The American people want us to duly deliberate before committing some sort of sustained action against the Houthis or others, said Senator Todd Young, a Republican member of the Foreign Relations Committee who has helped lead efforts in the Senate to overturn the 2002 authorization for use of military force, or UMF, that justified American action in Iraq. This month, the Biden administration authorized multiple strikes against the Houthis, an Iranian-backed organization based in Yemen that has disturbed traffic in crucial shipping lanes connecting to the Suez Canal. The Defense Department has characterized the strikes against the Houthis as defensive, citing imminent threat of attack to merchant ships and U.S. vessels. It's defensive, so you go over there in their territory and then they shoot at you and you say, oh, no, this is just self-defense. I guess. And these merchant ships, I think like 99% of these merchant ships coming through are not even U.S. ships. They're not owned by the U.S. people. They're not owned by the U.S. government. Yet the U.S. Navy is on the other side of the world spending taxpayer money saying that they're defending America. This is an imminent threat. I guess. The Houthis began attacking commercial ships in the Red Sea in response to Israel's military campaign in Gaza. I know of no definition of self-defense that includes protecting foreign flagships. It might be a really good thing to do, but what's the legal justification for the Democrat Senator Tim Kaine, the other leader of efforts to overturn the 2002 AUMF in the Senate, told me on Tuesday? Yeah, that's the thing. You can't just go to war and start bombing a whole country talking about it's self-defense when you're protecting foreigners. You go to the other side of the world, attack a whole country, and say, yeah, it's self-defense because they attacked some ship from some random country over there in Asia? What? And now you about to drag us into this? I mean, just ever-escalating wars, man. There's a what's the strategy question. Well, there's never a strategy. With these U.S. wars, there is never a strategy. They didn't have a strategy in Ukraine. They just said, look, we're rich. The EU is rich, allegedly. So we're just going to sanction Russia into oblivion, and Russia's going to surrender. It's going to bring them down to their knees. They said, look, Afghanistan, they're a bunch of cavemen running around in sandals. They stole some AK-47. We're the big, bad, mighty U.S. So we're just going to go in there, carpet bomb them, put some soldiers on the ground, and they're going to drop to their knees and surrender. They said the same thing back in Vietnam. We can go through all of these wars. There is never a strategy. And yet every time there's a failure, U.S. soldiers get dropped off, or it turns out to be a complete disaster. U.S. just leaves the area in ruins. Nobody is ever held accountable. And since the administration said they expect more escalation, and that's what's happening, okay then, what's the plan to de-escalate? There's not a plan. There is never, ever a plan. We just have a bunch of warmongers on Capitol Hill, and in the White House we have a bunch of communists. They don't have a plan at all. They don't know what the hell they're doing. They have no idea how to run these operations. Indeed, President Joe Biden himself has acknowledged that despite failing to dissuade the group from attacking vessels traveling through key sea lanes, the campaign against the Houthis may be open-ended. Are they stopping the Houthis? No, Biden said last week. Are they going to continue? Yes. So like I said, you're just over here doing something that's not working, but you're going to continue to do it. Absolute madness. But like I said, this defines the U.S. foreign policy over the last few decades. And let's skip down here. On Tuesday, Young and Kaine were joined by Democrat Senator Chris Murphy and Republican Senator Mike Lee in sending a letter to the White House asking for more details on the administration's strategy in responding to Houthi attacks. While the senators said they support smart steps to defend U.S. personnel and assets and hold the Houthis accountable for their actions, they further believe Congress must carefully deliberate before authorizing offensive military action. So the U.S. is about to be dragged into another decades-long war in the Middle East. So you got to remember, U.S. has already been fighting the Houthis through the Saudis. Since 2014, 2015 or so, the U.S. has used the Saudis as a proxy to bomb the hell out of the Houthis, to fight the Houthis. And that actually ended badly. And the Saudis said, look, man, we're done with it. We want out of this. This isn't working. We're losing all types of body. We're having bad relations with Iran and other nations in the Middle East because we're over here being your proxy trying to fight Yemen, trying to fight the Houthis, and is being ineffective. So now the U.S., they're thinking, okay, if we can stay safely in our jets, stay safely in our ships, and just shoot missiles at them, that'll work. Not going to work at all. It's a ludicrous strategy. The administration has stated that the strikes on Houthi targets today have not and will not deter the Houthi attacks, suggesting that we are in the midst of an ongoing regional conflict that carries the risk of escalation, the senator said, adding that there is no current congressional authorization for offensive U.S. military action against the Houthis. So what are y'all going to do? Joe Biden goes over there unconstitutionally because the president can deploy military for a certain period of time. I think it's 60 days or so before he has to go to Congress. But these presidents do whatever the hell they want to do, and they're never held accountable for it. What, are y'all going to impeach him? The Republicans have multiple reasons to impeach Joe Biden. It's been 3 years, and they haven't gotten off their butts and done it because they're weak. Well, a lot of them are uniparty, and they're getting rich, and they don't really care as long as they're personally enriching themselves. So you sitting here talking about, oh, well, you're waging war against another country, and you should go to Congress. You're not going to do anything about it. If he continues this war, the Democrats are definitely not going to do anything. They're going to defend him. And the Republicans are just going to cry. A couple of them are going to cry. But more than half of the Republican Party is completely okay with this because they're warmongers like the Nikki Haley types, like the Lindsey Graham's types. So here's the strategy for these guys to get rich. Find a third world country, start a war, drag that war out for years on end, and use U.S. taxpayer money or print money, because they do a lot of that, trillions of dollars in wars over the last couple of decades. Use this money to go to the defense contractors. The defense contractors give donations and kickbacks, board seats to these congressmen, these governors, these generals, all of these guys. So you have these wars going on in third world countries, and the people in charge of these wars get rich off of it. The people who make the weapons, they get filthy rich. The people who make water bottles and food and uniforms, they get filthy rich. The service members, they don't get paid enough. A lot of them come back with PTSD. They come back maimed. Some of them come back in body bags, like the 3 guys who were just in Jordan or Syria or wherever. But the people at the top, oh, they get rich as hell. And this is just another way to continue. They realized they messed up. They tried to do something in Russia. They were thinking, oh, Russia's just a gas station with nuclear weapons. They're a trash country. Their economy is smaller than the economy of Florida. Russia's trash. And the people don't even like Putin. That's what they told themselves. They believe they're on propaganda. So they tried to start a proxy war over there, and it's not working out for them. So they're trying their best to get out. It's like, okay, we tried one against Russia, but we can't do that against a modern country, a modern army. So we need to go back to third world countries. So let's go to the poorest country in the Middle East, Yemen, and bomb the hell out of them and say, hey, it's self-defense. And let's drag out a war and let's all get rich. That's what's going on over here. So these guys in Congress are saying, look, the power to declare war rests with Congress according to the Constitution. Yet, effectively, the power to declare war has been with the president over the last couple of decades because these congressmen and senators, they don't want to be held accountable for a failed war. Remember Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama back in 2008? What did Barack Obama keep hitting them with? Didn't you give Bush authorization to go into Iraq? Didn't you do that? Didn't you vote for that? So these guys are like, oh man, I don't want anything to do with it because if I run for higher office one day, or if I try to get reelected and I vote for some failed war, it's going to be used against me. So they sit here and let these presidents just bomb whoever the hell they feel like bombing with no consequences. Some people may bitch and cry, oh, you can't do that. But there are no consequences for these guys. So it looks like effectively the power to wage war is with the president. Did they wage war against Russia? When you provoke the hell out of Russia, send NATO soldiers in disguise and under the title of quote unquote mercenaries in Ukraine to fight Russia, when you arm the hell out of Ukraine and spend all types of money, U.S. taxpayer money, to fight against Russia, when you try to sanction and bankrupt Russia, going to war against them economically and physically, was there a declaration of war? Or did the president just decide to do that? The commies who surround the president, of course, did they just decide to do that? Because there are no consequences. You have a failed war in Afghanistan, soldiers died, Soldiers getting attacked in Iraq. Soldiers dying in Jordan or Syria. You're bombing Yemen. But nobody's held accountable. The president's not being dragged in. There's no impeachment. He's not being sued, not being dragged to the Supreme Court for violating the Constitution. So I don't know where this is going to go. Do send in a letter? But good luck with that. Let me know what you guys think about this. Leave me your thoughts below. Share the video. Thanks for watching.